Hi again, and welcome to another edition of Litter Media Live. I'm Dan Ramey, and sitting with me here today we have Brian Knoles. And in just a moment you'll be able to see Brian. I'm pushing the wrong buttons here to make sure we can be seen on camera. And I think this is it. There we are. Yeah. Good to have you with us here today,
nice
Brian.
Nice to be here, Dan. Appreciate it.
For a moment there, people were wondering, does he really exist? Well, he does. And you're usually behind the scenes.
That's correct.
Of what's going on behind us right now, talking about fireworks. We're going to talk about that in just a moment, right after this from our friends at McDonald's.
I was looking for a first job. I had been babysitting and decided it was something for a little more permanent. It pays very well. It's convenient, you can make your own schedule with the flexibility. That's something that I like. The people that I work with are great. I wouldn't ask for a better crew or management team to work for.
Earlier this week, we talked with Mayor Luke Feeney and your brother, Bill Knoles, about what's going on with the Chillicothe Noontime Rotary. They're the ones responsible for fundraising for this year's fireworks display, which they did last year, and that's what people are watching behind us right now.
They did a fantastic job last year, basically doubled what our budget's been last year, and this year almost doubled it again. So the Noon Rotary has been phenomenal. Yeah. And I have to thank my brother, Bill. He is heading up the Rotary, the fund drive, fundraising for it, but we're thrilled to death,
Now, we need to make your dad happy, which means get a little closer to that microphone.
Okay. How's that, Dad?
Belly up to the mic, as they say. Now, when we look at this, you've been involved with fireworks, as Bill told us, you've just been a nut for many years. I think he meant fireworks.
Don't be so sure.
How long have you been shooting fireworks?
Well, like a lot of people in our club, I started when I was a kid. I have to blame my dad for that. We'd stop on the way back from Florida and buy a few little things. We started doing a show probably high school, little show. My friends and I would get together and do a show, and it got bigger and bigger and bigger. By the time we moved up to the consumer fireworks and got our license, we were renting a U-Haul truck to pick up fireworks.
Really?
Yes. So, I mean,
Wow.
that's when we decided we better step up and go the big route. And
so that's the point where you said, we better start getting serious about this.
it was, but the ironic thing is we said we don't ever want to do public shows. We just want to do our show.
Yeah.
At home.
And now how many public shows have you done since?
Hundreds and hundreds. It's not what our promise was to ourselves, let's put it that way. But we've enjoyed all of it. I mean, we are all, well, I won't say amateur because we get paid for some of these gigs, but we're all hobbyists, basically. We do this for fun. We make no money off the Chillicothe show. We make no money off what we're doing now. The club makes money a little bit for insurance, and training and equipment and things like that, but it's a labor of love.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a sickness.
And there's no cure for it, but
apparently not.
But
it's
flipping a switch and making a firework go off.
Yeah, now it's going beyond switches, so it just keeps advancing and always something new. Yes.
So you went from the days of where you're like, all right, y'all watch this, and you put a lighter down and light it to see what happens, right?
Anytime you hear someone lighting fireworks saying, y'all watch this, that's when it's time to run. That's usually when something bad happens. Yeah, that's how it happened, and that's part of the learning, part of the training.
Yeah, I learned even flying the Litter Media drone, you can't have that machoism. You can't say, something like, here, hold my beer.
No, that doesn't apply to this. I mean, this is some big stuff here that is, you've got to respect what you're working with, and there's a lot of large shells in this show here that you got to be very careful with, but they're beautiful shells.
I think it was February of 21 or 22 that you made a presentation to the Rotary Club, and you were showing the size of shells, and you actually had some shells with you to give them an idea of what money can buy to put on a good show.
Yes, I have some inert shells, some, just dummy shells there that at our show, we shot up to a 16-inch shell. Now, for reference, Red, White, and Boom's biggest shell is a 6-inch shell. So we were shooting 16
to their 6.
Yes. Now, Chillicothe and setbacks are an issue. We will be shooting 8-inch shells, so, which is a very large shell. So for the Chillicothe show, we will be shooting up to 8-inch shells.
That's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
and when you talk 8 inches, are you talking about like this?
yeah, a true 8-inch diameter.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Just to give folks a visual, since I don't have a visual to show you. So it's about that big, and when it goes off, it's going to look like that.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
And each one has its own height that it can go, correct?
Yes. The diameter of the shell dictates the amount of lift charge in the shell, so how high it will go. So the bigger the shell, the higher it goes. Mm-hmm. So that's not always good. You know, it's the higher they are, the harder they are to see sometimes. But they're spaced. You know, they're timed just right to get the optimal effect from them. So
now, how many different styles can we expect this year? And the reason I say that is because we all see the nice big like powder puff that goes off, but then you see the red stars with the green stripes and the whole deal. How does that happen?
That's all the way the shells are built. There are pattern shells, which actually they make stars. They make like Saturn shells that have rings around them and different designs. They have hanging shells that, you know, they go off and then they just kind of hang forever. There's some of my favorite, like a willow. Mm-hmm. They have some that, you know, just like pulsate, just so many different types of shells. I mean, it's and there will be a large variety in this show, and a lot of them.
Now, we were talking earlier off air, and I had the opportunity to be at Ground Zero here back in 2018, I think it was, and to see the amount of time it takes to set up a show. Now, it's one thing, I'm sure you roll out paper and you start designing how you're going to shoot all this off, but then when the actual physical part comes along, about how many hours are we talking?
Well, Grant Miller is our show designer for the show. They spent 16 hours last weekend just labeling the shells with the queue number, what mortar they go in, and what queue on the computer system they go on. That doesn't even take into account the soundtrack, where they have to actually place the shells to the music on the soundtrack. He's probably got, I would hate to think how many hours he has in just that. The planning stages, we start planning right after last year's show, you know, what shells we want and kind of wait for the budget, which we're thrilled to death with this year's budget. Hamburg Fireworks is the company we do the show, they shoot the show for. Great company out of Lancaster. It's a family company. They treat us very well, but they have nothing but the best product. That's why we like them. They're, you know, you can buy a standard grade shell that looks nice when it breaks, but some of these shells you'll see at Chillicothe, you know, they'll change color, they'll you know, change effects. It's just, it makes the show.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah, quality is a big deal in pyrotechnics.
And prior to last year, thanks to COVID, you still had the issues of what you could get from overseas, right?
Last year was the worst year that I've ever done fireworks for availability. You couldn't get shells. The ports were closed down in China, and the ports in the United States were not taking anything. There were a lot of shows canceled last year because there was no product.
Wow.
So Chillicothe was actually very fortunate to have the show we had, because there was a lot of people that didn't even get to have a show last year. So once again, I thank Hamburg for that, because they really stepped up and took care of us last year. I felt bad for them, the position they were in. So.
Yeah. Now, I know this just due to the fact that I know people, but maybe some folks don't know this, but you do more than just Chillicothe. You've been to the Ohio State games, and when we see fireworks for a nighttime game, you're the guy behind that.
I was very lucky. Ken Sprague is the owner and president of Hamburg Fireworks, and he asked me probably 6 years ago if I would be interested in doing the Ohio State games, and I'm like, oh yes, and I'm afraid of heights, so probably not a bright thing to do. So we're up on this, you know, scoreboard and on top of the press box, and it has been one of the most exciting things I've ever done. Pyrotechnics. I mean, you are right there on the field with the players, and being in that stadium with 103,000+ people. Mm-hmm. Of course, if you mess something up, you're going to know about it. But it's a rush like I can't explain.
You have to avoid like the Goodyear blimp and that sort of thing, right?
Yeah. There are a lot of things flying, and there's a lot of people there too that you have to avoid.
One or two, yeah.
Yeah, one or two there, and some of those players, you probably wouldn't be very well liked if you hear one of the players.
True.
Yeah.
But you're dwarfed by those guys too, because some of them, 6'8", 300 plus pounds. It's something else.
Yeah, it is amazing standing by these guys, and they're big, but to see them standing right beside you is like, wow.
So do you ever play the fireworks card? Do you say, like, I'm the guy that's going to push the button when you score a touchdown?
No, and a lot of them are nice, and they'll ask questions and things like that. Most people like pyro, and it adds a lot to an event. We also, right now, the club's helping. We're doing the Columbus Clippers games, the fireworks. But I've helped do the Blue Jackets, and I'm on the crew. Well, I have an injury right now. I'm kind of disabled right now, but on that crew up there, supposed to be on that pyro crew up in Columbus.
The crew for the crew?
The Columbus crew, yes.
How about that?
Soccer
That's
games,
pretty cool. So see, you start getting a name for yourself, and people start reaching out to you.
It's almost a curse.
Yeah.
It's great, but there comes a point you got to say, card's full. Because I do have a full-time job.
Yeah.
So yes, that's...
Who would have thought, though, that your vacation trips to Florida would lead to something like this?
Never dreamt it.
Yeah.
Never dreamt we'd ever do a public show. We always swore we'd probably never do Chillicothe show because we didn't want to stop doing ours. Mm-hmm. But when the time came, there came a time when our show just got too big, and we said it's probably time we, start doing public shows.
Yeah.
And it was a great move.
And I imagine you've kind of cut your teeth on those shows to give an opportunity to make an entertainment for a larger audience.
We were doing things at our show that we were just now starting to do, at some of these other public shows. We had a lot of unique effects and a lot more difficult to do it because we didn't have computerized firing systems and all that. I mean, so the logistics were terrible, but it as the technology advances with the fireworks, it's really helped. It makes me kind of wish we had that technology back when we were doing that show, but you can't go back.
And now we're talking specifically about the Chillicothe show this year, which will be on July 4th at 10 o'clock down along the flood wall. Being on the flood wall is the best place to see this fireworks display. I mean, you can see it from the parking lots and things, but to really gain the full effect, you got to be on the flood wall.
Yeah, and I would be there by 9:45.
Yeah,
because you know how things happen.
Sure.
You don't know about weather. We've had to start a little bit early before weather and things like that. But you don't want to be rushing. Once the show starts, that's everything stops. And you're wherever you're at. That's where you're at.
And probably for the next 25 minutes. Is that the case?
Yes.
So about a 25-minute long show this year. But this is not the only show that you're going to be doing over the next few days, right?
No, it's not. We'll do the Country Club on Friday. We do a show in Waverly on Saturday. We do a private show on Sunday. Of course, Monday we start setting Chillicothe up, and then Tuesday. And we have more shows throughout the summer, and fall's getting just as busy. Yeah. We're doing a lot of fall shows around Labor Day now. So there's less and less free time to get stuff done at home, but it's we love it.
But like you said, it's a labor of love.
It's a labor of love.
And you just can't get it out of your system.
We're not paying to do what we enjoy. We're actually doing it, and the club makes money. We don't make any money off of it. The club does for our expenses, but we're not spending our money to do what we enjoy doing. So, yeah, it's a win-win.
Yeah, when somebody else is paying for it, it's great.
Well, yeah. You buy a lot more stuff.
You bet. You bet. Now, there's still time if you want to make contributions financially to this. You can find that on the interview I did with Bill Knoles, Brian's brother, as well as Mayor Luke Feeney earlier in the week. That information is available there. Anything that we have missed you wanted to make sure people knew?
Well, I just want to make sure everyone's aware, some of the people involved, and Mayor Feeney and his office, Clint Boggs, they have been wonderful, working more with Rotary, setting the logistics up, and with the fundraising. Of course, the Noon Rotary is just, they've gone above and beyond. With their fundraising, fire department, they you can't do this without a fire department.
Amen to that.
Yeah. So I mean, their chief, Aaron Knotts, he's got everything right on the ball, and Jeff Smith is one we work with in the park. Mm-hmm. He's there with us, the supervisor there, to make sure everything goes all right. We worked with Jeff for years, and he's a great guy, and he's by the book, and that's the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah, you can't get anywhere or do anything without Jeff Smith's approval.
No, and I tell you what, you can't let something slide. One little thing in this line of work, and it could be catastrophic. But
we've talked about the group, but we haven't talked specifically about the group. It's the Ohio Pyrotechnic Arts Guild.
Correct, yes.
And you've got how many members in the group?
I believe there's 50 to 60 members right now around the state.
Around the state.
Yeah, we have people from Cleveland to Cincinnati to just kind of scattered. Columbus and the Chillicothe area is a large concentration, so we end up doing a lot of things in this area here for that, which makes it nice for the rest of us. But yeah, we travel, we do competition. We've done national competitions. We've been invited, and we've won 2 of those. Yeah. So I mean, it's we've got some very talented young guys in this club now that are really into the computer age, which I appreciate it, but I'm at the age now where I don't want to relearn everything I've done on that side of it.
Yeah. But you were telling me a moment ago, this show is the first time Chillicothe's fireworks, since you've been doing them, have been all computerized.
Absolutely. It will be a scripted program this year, actually a computer script with the soundtrack, which, KKJ, WKKJ, and Christina Wolford made the wonderful soundtrack for us. So yes, it will actually be, and Grant Miller is the one scripting the show. He's been working on that. She got it to us early, and he's got it all scripted. So it ought to be a really obvious, scripted show. Power Music.
That's good to hear. Yes. Now, Doug Blue is the lead shooter on this this year. You might know his son a little more. Coach Blue, Alan, is probably more popular than his dad is, but outside of that, he's going to be the main guy.
And Doug and I started out from the early days in school. So, I mean, Doug has been there. He's one of them that is, in our old group that we've been together doing it the whole time. So many years.
I remember watching you guys set up that show in 2018, and Doug was just so matter-of-fact as he was talking about the whole thing. Like, I could do it with my eyes shut.
Doug's our finale man most of the time. Chillicothe has an incredible finale, and that's his specialty if you want to, have a specialty. But very good and just a natural at it. Like I said, there are many different ways to fire a show. Yeah. But the finale is a big deal. And I think shell placement, you don't want dead spots in the show. I mean, that's never good. So,
but when you hear the crowd go woo at the end, it's something else.
That's when you know you did good or bad. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And we have another club member, George Galogli. He's been working on this show since last fall, also coordinating things and putting things together. So there's a lot of people in the club. It's a club effort, but there's always a few that have to assume the roles of the leadership roles and take the responsibility, and they've sure stepped up, and of course the whole club does. But it's like a machine down there. You've been down there, split up, and everyone has their area they're working on, and
that assigned duty.
Yeah, absolutely.
So keep this in mind while you are enjoying all the food trucks and the inflatables and stuff during Chillicothe Community Day and the pool party. These folks have put everything else aside so that they can put on a good show.
A lot of understanding wives and family in the club.
Amen to that.
Yeah. And bless them, because they know what it is.
It's kind of like a reunion in some respects. They all bring their lawn chairs. They sit underneath the shade trees there along the river, and you have food and the whole deal too.
You got to eat well. That's part of the experience. But yes, the club gets along so well. I mean, that's the difference between our club. When a crew goes to do a show, a lot of times it's just a paid crew, and they put on a very good show. But like I said, we're not paid. The club makes a little bit. We're doing it there because we enjoy it. So it's a whole different atmosphere. It's not a job. It's a fun experience.
Mm-hmm. Now I've been involved in kind of way off way in regards to Red, White, and Boom. I know a lot of people involved with the show. They may have more fireworks. You've got bigger fireworks and just as good a show.
I believe. Well, I'm a little biased. I believe Chillicothe show will be much better, just for the fact, yes, Chillicothe or Red, White, and Boom is a much bigger budget, a lot more shells. Yeah, but I don't believe that it's as scripted, as intimate as the Chillicothe show. I mean, it's a big area. Chillicothe is a very large area, the viewing area, the parking lots and all that, but it's still, you're right in one area there. You're not fighting 500,000 people.
Right.
Get to your cars and back, and I would prefer coming to the Chillicothe show.
Yeah. So go ahead and enjoy Red, White, and Boom if you want, but if you want to see the real show, come to Chillicothe, Ohio's first capital.
Absolutely.
Brian Knoles, thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
And thank you for watching as well. Again, if you missed any of this live, you can go back and watch it on demand here on our Facebook page. It'll be available later on our YouTube channel as well. And we've got our regular show coming up here at 11 o'clock. For Brian Knoles, I'm Dan Ramey. Happy 4th of July ahead of time. Watch for the fireworks coming up July 4th.
Be safe.